So last time we started looking at surfaces which have boundary and surfaces which are orientable, how to give a compatible orientation to the boundary of that surface. So let me just clarify one thing here, that the boundary of a surface is a subset of R3, right? So its boundary does not mean it is a boundary points as a subset of R3. You recall we had defined the boundary of a set, right? Those are the points such that if you draw a neighborhood, then it intersects the set as well as the complement of it. That is not the same as saying that a set, if it is a subset of R3, right, a surface is a subset of R3, then its boundary points consists of the boundary of that surface. So don't confuse the two things. In a plane it is okay. In a plane, if you have a planar surface, then its boundary is same as the boundary points of that set. But in R3, that is not the case. For example, if you take, say, half sphere, right, what would you like to call its boundary? A ball which is cut half, right? Upper half of the sphere only. What would you like to call its boundary? That circle, right? The rim. But if you take it as a subset of R3 and try to calculate its boundary points, what are the boundary points? The whole surface is the boundary points. So that is not the boundary. So what does boundary of a surface mean exactly, mathematically? It's a very difficult question to answer. It requires higher mathematics, a subject called differential topology. We'll not go into that, but I'll try to clarify to you for the surfaces that we are going to consider, what does boundary mean. If the surface is a part of the plane, then it is same as the boundary points. Then there is no problem. For example, we looked at that example of a square, right? Its boundary points are nothing but the boundary as a subset of R2, right? Let us look at a surface in the plane, surface in R3, right? How do you construct a surface in R3? The only way we have been telling till now is that you are able to give a parameterization for that surface. What does parameterization mean? There is a function from plane in the UV region, right? So there is a domain, and that domain is transformed to R3 by this parameterization, and that gives you the surface, right? That is what parameterization does. Clear to everybody? That is what a surface means. A parameterization of a curve means what? Say, you take a part of the line, right? And a parameterization of a curve means it transforms that interval, that time interval, into the position, right? That is a curve in space. The same way for a surface, you take a part of the plane, a UV plane, take some domain D, and take the function R, which takes RUV to UV to RUV, a point in R3, right? So now for the domain of this parameterization, D, which is a part of the plane, we have a boundary, right? Because it is part of the plane, and there the boundary is same as the boundary points of a subset of R2. And this parameterization will transform this boundary to something in R3. That set is the boundary of the surface, right? So the parameterization will take the boundary of the domain in R2, right, to something. So the image of the boundary of the domain of the parameterization is the boundary of that surface in R3. Is that clear to everybody? What is boundary now? Let me give you some examples to illustrate this once again. Right? So this is what I have said, that in R2 the boundary is same as the boundary points. Look at the points which are inside, right? Every neighborhood intersects inside and outside. In R3, right, at least to make it very clear, you look at a parameterization of the surface. So that is a function from D, okay, is subset of R2 to R3, right? Clear? The image of this domain is the surface in R3. So look at the boundary of D in the plane. That is well defined. So look at the image of that boundary in R3. That is the boundary of the surface S. Okay. For example, let us look at, supposing your curve is surface is given explicitly in the form of Z is equal to fxy. Okay. Fxy belongs to D. So how does the surface we construct? There is a domain in the xy plane. For every point here, there is a height z is equal to fxy. That gives you the point x, y, fxy. So that gives you the surface, right? So on this domain D, I know the boundary of this domain in the plane. So each point, you take correspondingly what is z of fxy. That gives you a point of the surface. So that gives you the boundary points for the surface. So the image of the domain below is lifted up, that gives you the boundary of the surface for something given explicitly. And more often than not, this is the kind of surfaces that we are going to come across. Right? There will be a parameterization. A parameterization is from a domain D in R2 to R3. Look at the boundary of the domain D in R2. Look at its image in R3. That is the boundary of the surface. Okay? So for example here, this is the boundary. So each point lifted up. So that gives you, this is the boundary of the surface. Okay? So we were looking at examples of orientations. So we looked at the plane. Okay? The planar region in R2. For that there is no problem of saying what is the boundary, right? Clearly this is the boundary. These four sides is the boundary. And this is the orientable surface. There is two choices of normal up or normal down for the surface. You select whichever you like. If you are selecting this which is going up, the z-axis as a normal at every point, then you have to give an orientation, compatible orientation to the boundary that is given by this circulation, right? So that goes like this. So basic idea is keep your kind of thumb on the right hand thumb. Imagine yourself on the surface, right? If this is a normal, then you should be going along the fingers. That is the orientation you should be giving. Compatible orientation, right? So for a plane surface is okay. Let us look at, we were looking at that inclined plane, right? So this is a plane which is x plus y plus z is equal to 1. Okay, between x between 0 and 1, y between 0 and 1, z between 0 and 1. So this is the plane. Okay, this is also an orientable surface. You can have a normal going out, you can have a normal going in. Okay, here we are imagining this plane, this origin is on the other side of the plane in this picture. Okay, when viewing three-dimensional thing, you have to be very clear what you are imagining at. So we are imagining this is a plane and origin is at the back side of the plane. Okay, and I am taking the normal which is coming out of it. Okay, normal which is coming out of it. Okay, so this plane, what will be the boundary of this plane if you want to look at the boundary? Is it clear? This will be a triangle even by the definition, because you can take its projection onto the xy plane, that will give you that triangle. So that is the boundary of the projection. When you lift it up, you get this inclined boundary. Clear? That is the boundary. And the orientation, if you are taking the outward one, then this should be the orientation going this way, right? For the plane, the normal is coming out, origin is behind. Okay, so when you put yourself on the surface, right, it should be going this direction, your finger direction. So if this is a normal, it should be going this way. So that will be the orientation, compatible orientation for the plane, right? This plane. Let us look at some more examples to clear what is the boundary and what is the orientation. So this is what I said. If you take the normal to be coming out, that means what? Right? Geometrically, k component is positive because it is above the xy plane you are looking at. Always the k component, right? Or the normal will be a positive k component. Okay. So consider that paraboloid as we looked at last time also. So paraboloid is z bigger than or equal to 0, right? So what does the surface look like? It is a cup, right? At z equal to 4 is the tip. It is coming down, okay? So the projection in the xy plane is the disc, okay? What is the boundary of that? That is a circle. So for this paraboloid, the boundary is also that circle, right? Is it clear to everybody? For this paraboloid, inverted cup, resting on the xy plane, what is the boundary? If I want to write a parameterization, what is the projection of that surface on the xy plane? That is the disc. So what is the boundary of the disc? That is a circle, right? Lifted up, but the surface is touching at that point. So that itself is the boundary for the, so the planar surface, the disc as well as this paraboloid, they both have the common boundary, namely the circle, right? In the xy plane of radius 4. So that is, right? So this will be the boundary. So giving orientation to it as again, so if you at any point, if you can decide whether you want to go out or whether you want to take the inward one. So whichever you decide, if you decide this one is the outward one, then you are going to go this way, right? Again in this picture, which is inside, which is outside, you have to be very clear. So I have taken this is the outside one, okay? That is the inside portion. So this is the outside portion. So what I am saying is, if you taking like this, okay, actually that should be the right picture. At this point, if this is a normal, okay, and this is the orientation that is going to give for each, right? So that means what? As you come closer, so that will be the orientation, okay? So that is going to be the orientation for the boundary. Clear to everybody? Compatible orientation? Okay. So let us go ahead and state our theorem, which is called Stokes' theorem. It relates for a surface, there is a one notion of surface integral, there is one notion of line integral over the boundary. It relates the two in the following way. So S is a piecewise smooth oriented surface, C is the boundary, F is a continuously differentiable vector field defined in the domain D as well as the boundary, right? It's defined on a domain which includes, right, that surface as well as the boundary of that, because we are going to compute on both the things, okay? It's continuously differentiable. It says that this is form of Green's theorem that we had also. Curl F dot N, right? We had their double integral, here it comes now, surface integral is equal to the line integral over the boundary. So this is the second generalization of Green's theorem, the curl form of Green's theorem. There we had the double integral on the left hand side for the planar vector field F, curl F dot N, right? And here we have got the surface integral in R3. So curl F dot N ds. Now once again, on both sides are oriented things. This N is a normal on the surface. Surface is oriented, so you have to decide which normal you are going to take on the surface, right? So you decide whichever normal you want to take, right? For the surface, there are two normals possible, continuous normal. One is one way, other is the opposite way. You decide whichever you want, but on the line integral, then the boundary you should be giving the compatible orientation. The orientation should be the one which comes from the orientation of the surface. You fix first your orientation on the surface, and then you fix your orientation for the simple closed curve C, which is the boundary, clockwise or anti-clockwise. That depends on your orientation on the surface which you choose, okay? So that is what it says. N is the unit normal on S, and C is the positive, given the positive orientation relative to the orientation chosen for the surface. Then these two will be equal, otherwise you will get a negative sign difference. That is the only difference will come. Because you, instead of N you are choosing minus N, or instead of clockwise you take anti-clockwise, a difference of negative sign will come. So if you want both sides to be equal, you fix one orientation on the surface and take the corresponding compatible orientation on the boundary by using your right hand thumb rule, okay? So let us try to prove this theorem. Proof is very much similar to Green's theorem once again. Again we will be proving this only for very nice simple surfaces. What are simple surfaces? A surface which can be projected onto the XY plane, also projectable onto the YZ plane, also projectable onto the XY plane, and then patch it up and get for higher things. So let us start looking at the proof, what is involved in the proof and how does one go about it. On one side is the surface integral, other side is the line integral, right? So both have to be computed. So you have to give orientations, you have to give parameterizations, you have to look at F is the vector field, look at its components, right? Write those in terms of respective integrals, and then show left hand side is equal to right hand side. So let us see what are the things involved. So we will assume, this is the assumption we are making, your surface is simple, namely you can explicitly express Z in terms of X and Y, projectable onto the XY plane, or projectable onto the YZ plane, or projectable onto the other plane, right? So three planes, all of them it is possible to project this, a simple surface of that type. So let us give S a parameterization, because we want to compute surface integral. The first step in computing surface integral is to give a parameterization for the surface. So UV goes to RUV, U and V belonging to a region G, right? Once you are given a parameterization, what is the next thing you want to compute? For the surface integral, the normal you have to compute. Otherwise you cannot compute the integral. So let us compute the normal. For this the normal is RU cross RV, right? Let us write it as N1I, the components, we don't know because it's an abstract thing. So let us write the components as N1I plus N2J plus N3K, and let us write that as capital N as the normal. So what we want to compute, let us write F as the components Pi plus Qj plus Rk, then F dot curl F dot, right? So let us write curl F dot N we want to compute. So we will compute curl F, and we have already gotten dot product, that surface integral we want to compute. So curl F dot Ru cross Rv dx du dv over the region G, right? That is the definition of surface integral using parameterization. That's how we compute. Now only we have to write down this expression now. Curl of F. F we know this is this. Okay. Ru cross Rv we know this is N. Dot product we can compute. So it will be dot product of two vectors, right? So many terms will come because curl F will give you, right, three terms in terms of partial derivatives, difference of partial derivatives, right, of P and Q. So let us write that. So this is N1, N2, N3. Let us expand, put the value of curl F, expand this dot product. Okay. So when you expand the dot product, that is what you will get, right? Curl F, right? The three terms are there, N1, N2, N3, the dot products. So I just put the value of curl F in terms of the partial derivatives and expanded the dot product. So this is what you get. So this is the surface integral that we want to compute and show this is equal to the line integral. So let us see what is the right hand side that looks like. Let me just rearrange the terms here. Why I want to rearrange the terms? Because this is R coming here, P coming here, P coming here. We collect the terms which are of P together, of Q together, of R together. So rearrange the terms. So this is partial derivative with respect to R, Y minus partial derivative R with respect to X. So this times N1 minus this times N2 du, dv, and similarly other three terms. So rearrange the terms so that you have terms of P together, okay, terms of Q together and terms of R together. So this is my left hand side of curl F dot N ds. Let us look at what is the right hand side, that is line integral over the boundary. F dot dr. So what is F? That is Pi plus Qj plus Rk. What is dr? We have already given that, right? R is, so dx, dy, dz. That is the line integral. Okay. So this line integral, let us see what it. So okay, let me just write the backwards. So what I want to show 2 is equal to 3. This is a line integral. That is a surface integral. I have to show 2 is equal to 3. So what is the natural thing to do? Like for Green's theorem, we will show that terms containing P are equal to the terms containing P on this side. Terms containing Q will be equal to the corresponding integral for Q. Corresponding R will be equal to this line integral over R. So we will show that the first double integral over G of this partial derivative with respect to P is equal to line integral of P. Second, and then basic thing is add up these to get the result. So to prove 2 is equal to 3, one writes, it is sufficient to prove that this is equal to this is equal to this is equal to this. So let us write that. So this is how mathematics, people, mathematicians would write a proof. So to prove 2 is equal to 3, it is enough to prove the following things, namely this is equal to this, that is terms containing Q, the integral is equal to the line integral over Q, and that over R. So it's kind of reducing the problem to smaller bits kind of thing. Each bit is going to be proved now. So we'll prove equation 4 is true, and then similarly 4, 5 and 6 will be true. So we want to prove this equation 4. Okay. That is a double integral with respect to uv and a line integral with respect to this. Okay. Now till now we have not used the fact that your surface is of special type. Till now everything is just going rewriting the things in a general way, nothing more than that, right? Now because this will be going to involve P, okay, P is a function of 3 variable x, y and z, but it involves n2 and n3 only normal derivative with respect to n2, the component on y direction of the normal, component of the normal with respect to z, right? X is not entering into picture. So here we are going to use the fact that your surface is projectable onto the xy plane and compute this. For the second one, we'll use the second one, and third one, we'll use the third one. Okay? So let us use the fact your surface is representable as z is equal to fxy, right? But you said our surface is also representable as uv going to ruv. That means what does that mean? Now I am saying it is representable at this. That means what? That means I can take u equal to x, v equal to y, and that g which was there, that is now nothing but d prime. Right? The parameters u and v, I can choose them special parameter because it is projectable onto the xy plane. Right? I can choose u and v as x and y. So g is equal to d prime. That's all. Right? Special case. So rxy, this is a parameterization. We had taken it as ruv. Right? So now you compute, and now we'll know what is n2, what is n3. See, because once you have chosen this special parameterization for the surface as projectable, now I can compute the normal more precisely. Right? So what will be the normal for this when it is explicitly written as? What is the normal comes out to be? Fx, partial derivative of fxi minus fxj plus k. Remember? When the surface is written explicitly, the normal comes out to be minus fxi minus fij plus k. So what is n1? Minus fx. What is n2? Minus fy. What is k? That is the last one, n3 is equal to 1. Right? So that is the reason, because when you write it explicitly, those n1, n2, n3 are known in terms of a function f. Okay, so we do that. So n is equal to ru cross rv, which is same as minus fxi minus fyj plus k, because the surface is explicitly written. That means my n1 is equal to minus fx, n2 is equal to minus fy, and n3 is equal to 1. Because in that equation 4, partial derivative of p with respect to y, n3 and minus n2 is coming, right? Those n1, n2 and n3 were coming in the first integral. So I am trying to find those values of n2 and n3 when my surface is explicitly written as z is equal to fxy, right? So that gives me that this integral, partial derivative with respect to z, n2 minus with respect to n3, that was the left hand side of that equation, right? So n2 is equal to minus fy, n3 is equal to k. So this is the integral that comes out to be, right? So the left hand side of that double integral, when my surface is explicitly representable as z is equal to fxy, comes out to be this. Now I want to show that this is equal to the right hand side of the other thing, that is the line integral. Let us simplify the line integral also now. What does the line integral look like for this special surface which is projectable onto the xy plane? Now what I want a parameterization for the boundary of that surface, right? To compute the line integral f dot dr. And how do I get a boundary parameterization for the boundary of that surface? Because it is projectable, I will look at the boundary of the domain d prime in the xy plane, the projection, and I will lift that boundary up. I will get a parameterization for the boundary of the surface, right? And then compute the line integral. So let us do that. So once, because you are given the n is the positive k component you have to chosen, right? For the explicit one. So what will be the orientation for the boundary you will be getting? Right? That will be anti-clockwise orientation. So the projection also will be having the anti-clockwise orientation. So that is the only thing to be, so this is what I said. Okay. So positive k component. So projection here, that is the same picture that we have seen earlier. So let us give a parameterization for the boundary of D. Then we will lift it up, get a parameterization for the boundary of the surface and compute the line integral. So let us say a parameterization for this is r tilde xti plus ytj, right? A parameterization of will be x and y, okay, varying in some region, some part of the interval, some interval, right, I. So r tilde t is a parameterization of this one, okay, going counterclockwise. I want to lift it up. What is the meaning of lifting it up? Only z component has to be added. X and y remain the same. Only z component. What is z? To be on the surface, it is z is equal to fxy. So I get a parameterization for the boundary in the counterclockwise direction. So it will be xti ytj plus fxt ytk, t belonging to the same interval. Only z component is added. It is only lifted up now. That's all. So this is the parameterization. Now I can compute what is my line integral. So let us compute that line. So to compute the line integral, let me just write phi xy to be the function. See what is to be computed? P on that boundary, right? P on the boundary you have to compute. What is P on the boundary of that surface? A point is, how does the point on the boundary look like? X, y, fxy, right? It's a function of two variables. Now P is a function of three variables, but actually it comes from only functions of two variables from xy belonging to the domain D. So let us write phi xy equal to P of xy fxy, xy inside that domain, the projection onto the xy plane D prime, right? So then what is that P dx? That was the thing we wanted to compute, the right hand side, right, for that equality, right? Surface integral equal to line integral. Line integral had three components, P dx plus Q dy plus. So the first component is equal to the first double integral. So P dx. So what is P dx? For the boundary C, I have got this parameterization. So it is P evaluated on the boundary, right, times dx dt dt. T going from whatever the time interval is t belonging to y. That's how you compute line integral. Yes? Don't forget line integral. It's not very far away. We have just done it a few days back only. So this is a line integral. Okay. Now this function we have called it as phi. So let us write it in terms of phi. Okay. You will see why we are writing it. So this integral becomes integral over t phi xt yt dx dt dt. Right. Now it looks like a function of two variables only. Right. You are looking at a function of two variables phi. Phi is a function of x and y. You are evaluating its line integral over the boundary on the base. Boundary in the base only. Because t belongs to y. Right? Function of two variable. So what you are doing? You are evaluating this function phi xy line integral over the boundary of the base d prime. Right? This is how we will write this equal to. Now the idea is, this is from here I want to go to double integral kind of thing, right? Because that is a double integral on the right hand side. So what is it in the plane that relates line integral with double integral? That is Green's theorem. So here a Green's theorem application will be required. So this is line integral of phi over a curve in the plane. So use Green's theorem to write this as a double integral. So that gives you that this is equal to double integral over that region D enclosed by that curve in the projection, that is D prime. Only one function is there, right? So partial derivative of phi with respect to is phi xy only. Only one function. That second component is not there. So it is only minus coming, only one term coming. So this is precisely what was happening in Green's theorem also. Here actually we are using Green's theorem to get that result. There it was directly writing as one integral as terms p minus q to be equal to integral over partial derivative. Or second, pi plus qj, p dx plus q. Right? Keep that in mind. Which one is the which component? Okay. So it is the second component that you are looking at. So minus phi with respect to, right, application of Green's theorem, because it is line integral only on the base, right, in the plane curve only. Now once it is written this way, now I want to go back. Okay. Now I will write phi in terms of p backwards, right, because I want my answer in terms of p. So I will write it in terms of p and get the answer. So that is only. So let us compute what is the partial derivative of phi with respect to y. What was phi equal to? Phi was equal to p xy fxy. So calculate the partial derivative by chain rule. So this is a chain rule application of the partial derivative. Right? It's a function of two variables. So partial derivative with respect to y, okay, y as y of z. When you want to compute with respect to z, dz by dy will come. But what is z? Z is the fxy. So that is the partial derivative of f with respect to y. Right? And that is the term you wanted. Now if you put it here, that is what is the right hand side of that surface integral is precisely. Right? So that is over. The proof is over. Once you plug this in this equation, you want to go back and look at the steps again, or is it clear? Okay. Let me go back and say, okay, up to here it is okay. That on one side we have got this double integral, which we want to show it is equal to, we want to show this is equal to integral of p dx over the boundary of C. Right? If you want, I will go one step more back. Or it has to go 2 steps back. Okay. So we wanted to show that this is equal to this. Okay. So what we are going to show is the terms containing p, that is a double integral, that double integral is equal to the first line integral of p dx over the boundary. Is that okay? So first term is equal to first term. That is what we are going to show. Now to compute this thing, okay, we are going to use the fact that your surface is projectable onto the xy plane. That will give me the precise value of n2 and n3 in terms of that function z is equal to fxy. So what will be n2? n2 is the component of the second term, fxi minus fyj plus k. So n2 is minus fy, n3 is equal to k. That is 1. Okay. So you'll get partial derivative with respect to z multiplied by minus fy minus partial derivative with respect to p of with respect to y du dv. Is that okay? If you assume your surface is explicitly expressible in terms of z is equal to fxy, then n2 and n3 can be computed precisely in terms of that partial derivatives of that function f. Okay. So that is the first thing we want to do. So let me write that. So we want to prove this is equal to this. Okay, all those three things we want to prove. So the first observation is, let us write z is equal to fxy, write the normal, compute n2 and n3. So write the normal n2, n1, n2, n3. So put that values. So this thing is precisely this. Okay? Pardon? It was already minus sign there. Already there was a minus sign. So when you sit down and write out, we already have partial derivative with respect to n2 minus this thing. That was a term on the left hand side. So n3 is equal to 1. Oh, that should also be minus, sorry. There is a typo here. In the end we get only both minus only, right? This is also minus. So no problem. Right. So this is, put the value of n2, put the value of n3. That is what we want to prove is equal to integral of p dx. We have computed the left hand side. Let us compute the right hand side, p dx. Okay. So how do you compute p dx? You have to give a orientation. You have to give a parameterization for that curve over which you want to integrate. And what is the curve? That is the boundary of the surface, right? So the idea is to get a parameterization for the boundary of the surface. Look at its projection. Projection is d prime, the region in the xy plane. Look at its boundary. Give that orientation and lift it up and compute the line integral with respect to that. That is the only idea involved in this. So let us do that. So for the boundary, let us of the base, let us say the orientation is parameterization is xti plus ytj, t belonging to some interval. Okay, I. So when you want to lift it, only z component will be added. So you will get a parameterization for the boundary of the surface to be xti plus ytj plus f of, right, z component is fxy, x is equal to xt, y is equal to yt. So z component is f of xt, yt, k, t belonging to I. Right. Once that is done, now what you have to do? You have to only compute p, right, f dot dr, expand it and compute, right, using the parameterization. So we do that. So for that, the idea is because you are going to compute, you are taking a projection. So that point on the surface, on the boundary, that is going to vary only with respect to x and y. Now it is a function of three variables. So write phi xy as pxy fxy. Okay. Once you have done that, your integral line integral p dx. So what is p dx? P evaluated on the boundary. So that is p evaluated on the boundary. Dx dt into dt. Right. So that you write in terms of phi. So that is equal to integral of phi. And now realize this as a line integral of the plane curve, the boundary of d prime. Because what you are looking at, dx by dt, function of two variables only. Third variable is not entering into picture. So I can realize this integral, line integral, as a line integral over the boundary of the base, okay, of the function phi xy. If I hide the left hand side, only look at the right hand side of it, how will you evaluate that? Right? To evaluate phi xy over the boundary, you have to give a parameterization for the boundary, right? And that is the parameterization xt yt. So that is precisely the left hand side. Okay? So that's all. And now at this juncture, because this is a line integral over a plane curve, my Green's theorem is applicable. I apply Green's theorem and convert it into a double integral. And double integral will give you minus phi with respect to y. Okay? So we do that. Okay? And now compute this using chain rule, because what is phi xy? It is p x y f x y. Right? Z is a function of x and y itself. X and y are independent, but Z is a function of. So use chain rule, so you get these two terms. So minus sign will give you both of them are minus as you wanted them to be. That's all, nothing more than that. Right? So this is the only theorem in 3 dimension where you are using something of 2 dimension. For divergence theorem we did not use Green's theorem, but for Stokes theorem we are using Green's theorem. Right? We could go independent proofs. Okay. So remaining things similarly, and that will prove your Stokes theorem. Okay. So let me just once again emphasize, saying that verify Stokes theorem means what? You will be given a surface, you will be given a vector field, right? Surface will be given to be orientable. So you choose a normal for that surface. Choice is yours. Once you have chosen a normal for the surface, give appropriate orientation for the boundary of that surface so that it is compatible with that. Then only the two things will come out to be equal. Okay, and then both integrals are equal. So let us look at one example of computation of this type. So this is the surface, the part of a plane which is inclined. Okay, and I am given 0, 0 and these coordinates are given. So let us see. F is a vector field and this is the surface, a part of the plane Z is equal to Y. What is the plane? Surface is the plane, Z is equal to Y, okay, and a part of that is taken, because if you take an infinite plane there is no boundary for that, right? You have to have finite things only, bounded things only. So I am looking at a part of that plane which is this square. So this is the plane, Z is equal to Y. In that I am looking at that square piece with vertices 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0 and all those things, right? Now for this surface, this is orientable surface because it is a part of a plane. So there is one out normal, there is some in normal, there is some positive normal, there is some negative normal, whatever you want to call it. There are 2 continuous normals possible for this, right? And this surface is explicitly expressible. You can project it onto this plane, you can project it onto the other plane if you like. So when you project it onto the xy plane, this is going to be the square, that is the projection, right? Project it onto the xy plane. So this is the portion d prime which is going to be there, right? So how will you give the orientation? Supposing you have chosen this as the normal, okay? You are looking from the top, you are looking at the top of that normal, looking down, right? So what will be the orientation on this? This way orientation you should be giving, right? So it goes like this. So that should be the orientation for the boundary. And boundary consists of 4 parts. C1, C2, C3 and so C1, C2, C3 and C4. So the line integral will have 4 components to be computed. Whereas the surface integral will only have curl f dot n. And what is n here? For this, wherever you go, the normal is going to have positive k component. Right? So that is the one you have chosen. So keep that in mind and let us compute the things. So curl f we compute, right? That is computation of curl f. So that comes out to be this. Okay. What is the surface? That is a plane, Z is equal to Y. Explicitly if you want to represent it as Z is equal to Fxy. And what is the projection? Where do x and y vary? Right? X varies between 0 and 1. Y varies between 0 and 3. Projection onto the xy plane. Right? So that is the region from where you are going to lift your thing. Okay? So compute that unit normal. So that is minus j plus k. K component positive, that is the one we are choosing, the outward one. So this is the right one we should be choosing. Curl f dot n comes out to be this. So compute curl f dot n dx dy over the projection, that is over R, right? Surface integral, right? The vector field dot Ru cross Rv dx dy over the projection R, right? If it is projectable onto that surface, that is surface integral. So compute that dot product, we know. So it is a double integral, compute and comes out to be whatever it is, 90 or something. So on that boundary we have seen we are giving the counterclockwise because it's normal there. So that is the counterclockwise on that. So now we have to give for each piece C1, C2, C3, C4 a parameterization and compute those 4 integrals. So let us do that. So C1, C2, this is C1, this is C2, this is C3, this is C4. So let us write. So on C1 what is happening? It is moving along x-axis. only x component is changing, y and z are 0. So it is only xi, x goes from 0 to 1. On this what is happening? X component remains 1, z is equal to y. You are on that plane, z is equal to y. So for C2, right, x is 1, I plus yi plus yk. Y goes from 0 to 3. Similarly, give the orientation for this one and parameterization for this, and then write down the line integrals. Right? So that job has to be done. If you want to compute the verified Stokes theorem means for each piece you have to give a parameterization keeping in mind the orientation from where to where you are going. Right? For example, for this one you will be going opposite way. Right? So you will be going from 3 to 1, not 1 to 3. So keep that in mind. So like it happened in Green's theorem also, right? When the part of the sphere we will going the opposite way somewhere. So appropriately, so C4, that's why I have written 3 minus y and 3 minus, because at 3 it should be 0, starting at 0 and going at, right? It is not written as yj plus yk, right? It is a 3 minus because y starts at 3 and goes to opposite way. So it's already written in that way. Or it will be negative of that orientation going the forward one, whichever way you like. Okay, so now write down, once you have written down the parameterization, computing is easy. You have to just write down the 4 integrals and compute them. So over C1, C2, C3, C4, put the appropriate values of dx, dy and functions, right, and compute. So that computation is there. So over C1, we know what is on the curve, what is x, right? How does x vary? You know dx, x, y, z, all of them you know on that curve. C1, you know dx, you know dy, you know dz. So put that on, okay? And on C2 this comes out to be, so that computation is computation of line integral. Once the parameterizations are written appropriately, right, correctly, computation is just easy job, right? For line integral it will be one integral, Riemann integral. For the surface integral it will be a double, converting to a double integral and computing it. Okay. So that comes out. So for example in line integral somewhere x is on the C1, only x is varying, y and z are constant. So dy, dz terms will vanish out, right? They will not be there. Similarly other ones. So integrations become simple, keeping in mind on the curve what is happening, right? Which variable is constant, which is not constant. Okay. Let us look at one more example of orientations and such things so this is, we are looking at semisphere, okay? Over the surface, upper part of the sphere, okay? So here it is drawn properly. The dotted line means this is the behind part, okay? From origin, if you take the normal as the position vector, as the normal which is coming out at every point, then this is the orientation, right? If you are fixing normal to be coming out of it, then at this point, this is the tip of the normal, base of the normal. So around that you should be going this way, right? So enlarge yourself, so you should be going this way for the boundary, right? This is the outer part of the thing. Is okay? So that is a circle in the xy plane, and there you are going, what orientation you are getting for the boundary? That is same as anti-clockwise orientation, right? So while giving the circle, writing the parameterization for the circle, r cos theta, r sin theta, theta goes from 0 to 2 pi, not 2 pi to 0. If it is anti-clockwise or clockwise, that changes. So once that is done, we know how to find the normal, and so z is equal to fxy, and so normal is minus fx minus fyk, okay? So all computations are there. So compute the curl f dot n to compute the left hand side of the Stokes theorem. So that is n, that is curl f dot n. If you compute, okay, and put the values, it just comes out to be equal to pi. The integrand vanishes, it becomes 1 only, okay? And for the anti-clockwise orientation, x is equal to, z is 0, you are in the xy plane, x is equal to a cos t, a is 1, radius is 1, y is equal to sin t, t going from 0 to 2 pi, write down that line integral and compute, okay? So that also comes. So that is how you should be doing. Now slightly modification of that, extending it to slightly more complicated things. For example, you can imagine a cone or a paraboloid, right? So then the base is the boundary is the base. But supposing you cut it at some place, okay, at some height you have cut it off, some cap portion you have cut it, then it is kind of a hollow paraboloid starting at somewhere and ending at somewhere. So then the boundary will consist of two parts, one the smaller one at the top and one the bigger one at the bottom. So boundary will consist of two parts, right? But how do you extend this kind of a thing? Once again, you can imagine you are not cutting it off. Take the upper part as one surface, the angular part as another one, and you are patching up the two. So what will happen to that line integral on the common boundary? From that one, when you are putting, it will be opposite one, and for this will be the opposite one. The two will cancel out, like it was happening in Green's theorem. So the whole thing, so that you can say that it is equal to the boundary S1 plus S2 kind of thing will be coming, right? So when you want to apply Stokes theorem for regions with boundaries at not only one curve but many curves coming, then you have to only keep in mind that on the right hand side curl f dot n is not going to matter, right? Because the projection will be the region, whatever appropriate region is coming. But for that region, for that surface, the boundary will be two curves, right? So the line integral on the other side will be consisting of two line integrals with appropriate orientations which are compatible with the orientation on the surface. See, like Green's theorem, annular portion, one got clockwise, other one got anti-clockwise. Same kind of thing you have to keep in mind. So for example, let us just look at, supposing you are looking at a region like this, okay, right? The top portion is cut, only up to this portion I am looking at. So one boundary is this boundary, other part is this boundary. Supposing you are taking this normal, this is also orientable surface, right? This is also orientable surface. Supposing at every point you take this normal, okay, then this should be the orientation you should be giving. So let me write that as, okay, that is the inside portion, just to, okay, right. So this is the outside portion. So at every point normal, so you should be going like this. So what will be the orientation here? This will be the orientation on the lower circle. On the upper circle, okay, this should be the orientation for a normal, right? So which way it should be going? I should be going this way or this way? It should be like this, right? So it should be going. Is it okay? Upper portion will be, because at this point, if I draw a normal, right? If a normal is there, it should be going like this. To match it up, it should go like this. So here it is going like this, the other one is going the opposite one, right? So that is the only care you have to take care of it. Because for the, when you project it, projection of this surface is going to give you annulus portion, right? The projection is the annulus portion in the xy plane. For the outer one, it will give you this boundary, inner one is going to give you this boundary. So for the surface integral, that is not going to affect it, okay? Because you will be integrating only over this region, okay? Curl f dot n over this region. But for the line integral, you have to keep in mind which orientation you should be giving to the two parts of the boundary. So that care has to be taken. So that is all explained, okay? So this kind of thing. So normal when you take, right? Then if you are taking this as the outer one, then it will be going like this, and the other one will be going opposite one. Okay? So all this is written in English, so what I have explained. So this is, okay? Written in words, in printed form. Okay. So let us, same example, you can look at it. I think I shouldn't be saying anything more than what I have said. Only orientation is to be kept in mind. So that example is also worked out here. Boundary will consist of two parts, C1 union C2. C1 is here, bottom one, C2 is the upper one. It's good to revise anyway. So C1 is a circle, x square plus y square equal to 9. C2 will be the smaller one, x square plus y square equal to 4. For the outer one, bigger one, if you are choosing the outer normal, you will be giving the clockwise, anti-clockwise orientation. For the inner one, it will be coming the anti-clockwise orientation. So that is the only care one has to take. So curl f you compute, and the region is the annulus region that I have shown you. between 4 and 9 in the xy plane, that is the annulus region. So normal, outward normal if you choose and compute, answer comes out this. So the only thing that changes is the other part, the line integral C1 plus C2. In C1 it is anti-clockwise, there it is the clockwise orientation. So you will see a negative sign should appear, right? For C1, no problem, right? And when you want to compute for C2, that with a negative sign, this integral comes out with a negative sign because the orientation is the anti-clockwise one given, okay? So that is what C2 is so C2 is clockwise, C1 was anti-clockwise. So the negative sign is coming because of that, okay? So keep that in mind. So I think that is extending. Anything more? Okay, I think we'll look at applications next time. Let us not hurry through. Okay.